How do you do, everybody in YouTube land? I'm here with my regular Thursday message. You know, there are so many fakes and phonies delivering messages today for so many nefarious purposes that accomplish nothing. That I think it would be refreshing to try to straighten out the real problems and get to the core of the real issues. One of the main violent issues that is disturbing everybody right now is the whole business of how to relate to the Muslim population. There's so many people who will keep attacking the Muslims in a preposterous way that is really meaningless. Most Muslims are basically decent people. You never heard of any problems with the Muslim population in this country. They're always kind, gentle, humble people. And all of a sudden, the attack happened at that time at the World Trade Center. This horrible thing happened because there were certain Muslims who are right now became fanatics, and these fanatic people, whether they were Jews or Gentiles or anybody else, a fanatic person who's about to kill people when they happen to be Muslims is incidental. It's not the Muslims we're attacking the people who are doing these kinds of vicious things. And get the question of whether they're Muslims out of your mind. That has nothing to do with it. We're talking about people who are attacking somebody. If an Italian was doing it or a Jew, let's hear about them. Nobody is different when they're committing crimes. The Muslims right now are committing certain kinds of crimes. This is not the Muslim population. This is certain Muslim people. Let's get that straight before you complain about what I have to say here. Right now, there's taxi drivers in Minneapolis who have decided, taxi drivers, not to pick up a person because they have a dog. And they don't look at dogs, they don't touch dogs, they can't stand the sight of a dog. It's against the religion of certain very religious Muslims not to be any place near a dog, so they don't pick you up in the taxi. You could be standing there in a snowstorm and you could pass away freezing to death because they won't pick you up. Now, let's be honest about it. You took a job as a taxi driver. You have no right to select who you'll pick up in accordance to your religion. What if I was a Jew and I don't like to pick up somebody else on a Friday night because Friday night is my religious holiday? But I took the job as a taxi driver to work on certain times every day. I can't make exceptions in accordance to my religion. This is not a church or a synagogue I'm working in, and it's not a mosque that I'm working in. I'm working in a taxi. And I have to work in accordance to the rules of that job. If you can't fulfill the responsibility of that job, you take a different job. Should that be so hard to understand? Is this an attack on Muslims? It's an attack on anybody who doesn't fulfill the responsibility of the job he took. Like some Muslims are working in Target stores. And it happened at one Target store that a woman bought pork, and all of a sudden they wouldn't cash her out. She was stuck with the pork chop. She couldn't get out of the store because they don't eat pork and they don't want to touch pork and they don't want to even look at a person who holds a pork. And all of a sudden, certain very severely religious people decided, because I'm a Muslim, you can't have a pork and you can't buy the pork, but I took the job to sell you a pork. When he took the job, he didn't say, I'll sell anything but pork. If he said that, they wouldn't have had the job in the first place. So he took the job to sell it to anybody who buys whatever the product is sold in the store. Should that be so hard to understand? Am I picking on a Muslim or are they picking on you? Muslims came on a plane and they started to behave in a bizarre, very suspicious way. They started to pay tribute to Osama bin Laden before they got on the plane. And when they got on the plane, they were very skinny people who looked for certain kind of special belts, extended belts, which didn't make any sense. And then they were maneuvering around, sending messages to each other while they were saying vicious and ugly things about America. And there was all kinds of very severely weird kind of behavior that made everybody nervous and panicky, and everybody on the plane was afraid that. And all of a sudden, it was a shock situation all over the plane. And they were looking at them as if to say, what the hell are they going to do next? Are we going to get killed here? And because they got panicky, they refused to move the plane until they got off the plane. Now they, who behaved so suspiciously and had such a strange, weird way, purposely to arouse suspicion. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so obvious about it. All of a sudden, they're claiming now they have a right to sue the airline for picking on them for no reason. For no reason, while you're purposely creating a whole scene that makes it impossible to believe you're not about to do something so violent that you're liable to destroy everybody. Let's be honest about it. People have a right to be suspicious. A few years ago, 3,000 people got killed by a Muslim attack, by a plane. You remember when Tylenol was being sold? And they found a bad Tylenol that killed a few people. All of a sudden, they stopped Tylenol from being sold. The Tylenol manufacturers and the owners of the Tylenol Corporation didn't complain. You know why? Because they knew you had a right to be suspicious. After people died from a Tylenol, you're afraid to buy a Tylenol. Now, why is a Muslim any different than a Tylenol? And why is a Jew any different than a Tylenol? Anybody who killed you and has a history of killing innocent people and then gets suspicious of you and blames you for being suspicious of them is a very sick human being. They're telling you that you have a right to drop dead because I don't like it if you're suspicious of me. And I could behave as menacingly as I please and threaten to kill you because I've killed you before, and you're supposed to enjoy it because if you want to go, it's time to go because they think so. They decide that your life is worthless because if you value your life, there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with a person who could behave that way and threaten your life in that way after he killed some people before and then tell you that you should sit back and enjoy it and forget about it and decide that nothing means anything because it might disturb them. So you're supposed to give up your life to make sure that they're happy. Now, don't tell me this was an attack on Muslims. It's not an attack on Muslims. It's an attack on sick, vicious people. They happen to be Muslims. If there was somebody else, you would hear the same words word for word. You got that? That's my final word. Hello, let me tell you something. I thought I was done before, but I'm not done. I was so wound up with what I had to say before, but every word of it is the truth, that I forgot my main message. The main message is something that you shouldn't forget. Nobody should forget this. There's an organization called C.A.I.R, a Muslim organization. They call themselves C.A.I.R. They only care to kill people, to terrorize people. It's a fake name, and that's my honest opinion. I am entitled to my opinion. And my opinion is that it's a fake organization. There are many people who found out that they are funded by Muslim organizations that are terrorist organizations, like the Hamas and the Hezbollah, and money comes to them from these places. And there's absolute proof that I have discovered, and that I consider it absolute proof. This is my opinion. And my opinion has been right every time, and you could bet your life I'm right again. Watch out for that C.A.I.R organization. It's a fake front. It's a terrorist organization pretending to be humanitarians, pretending to care about the Muslim population, fighting for their freedom and equality and opportunity. It's just the opposite. They're just trying to protect terrorists and to find out where the terrorists are, to be in touch with them, to promote them, and to fight for them and to organize them. And while they're trying to allay all your suspicions, an underground movement is taking place in the name of C.A.I.R that's out to terrorize and destroy America and to destroy innocent and free-loving people everywhere in the world. Watch out for it. The name is C.A.I.R, and that's my opinion.